Hello, and we are back with the latest episode of Turn the Paige podcast. And I am so excited that this is also our first guest episode. Yay!
Yay!
And of course, I had to bring my absolute favorite person on as my first guest. The Better Together team is reunited. We are here, and today we are going to hear a little bit about Kristie's story and how she has evolved into the woman that she is and doing the work that she is doing as a lifestyle and wellness coach for women. And her new program that is centered around mindset and anxiety called Rewire, that is literally going to change people's lives, so many people's lives. And yeah, I'm just so excited for us to dive in and to answer some of the questions that you guys have, and for us to just come together and create this conversation that so many of us I know will be able to relate to. So, Kris, hi.
Hi. I just have to say, I'm not going to love bomb, but
Please do.
people are like, okay, here we go again. But just seeing you and your little official microphone and just everything that you're doing, it just all makes sense. You are so where you're meant to be with that microphone in your hand and just the whole brand that you're creating. I absolutely love, and the space that you're creating for people to share their stories, all different stories from all walks of life. So it's beautiful. I love it.
Thank you.
And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. You're so sweet. You're so sweet. I know it feels, when I first started, I mean, it felt so overwhelming and scary. And now when I sit down to do it, I'm just like, oh, it feels like no big deal. We're going to figure it out.
It sounds like you've been doing it forever, which you have, right?
Yeah.
In so many, you have been doing this forever. It's just now in this official podcast world setting. So yeah, it just seems so natural. So I love it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So for those of you who do not know and who have not been with us from the beginning, Kristie and I have been best friends for over 20 years now. And have
okay, well, we're not that old, so let's 7.
Okay, that's a stretch, but it has given us the opportunity to love multiple different versions of each other. And that is what is so beautiful about women friendships. That is what is so beautiful about childhood friendships and how they can grow and evolve over time. So even though I know all the things there is to know about wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Kristie, I want her to share her story with all of you. So please share as much as you feel comfortable. And yeah, we want to hear more about you and your story and where you come from and what you've been through.
Yeah, I feel like all of our stories are so complex. And for me, in the realm of anxiety, I like sharing my story of anxiety because a lot of people know that I've experienced grief. I've experienced very serious, deep trauma. And I think people, when they hear me talk about anxiety, they're like, well, they correlate it to that. But anxiety is something that has been with me since childhood. And I remember there wasn't a name for it back when we were kids, or there was a name for it. We just didn't talk about it in the way that we talk about it now. Mental health was not talked about. It was kind of hush hush. Oh my gosh. Therapy was it was almost like something was wrong with you if you were kind of in that world or talking in that aspect. And so for me, I actually don't remember a time not having anxiety. The very first time I can really pinpoint having a panic attack was kindergarten. And it was my mom was trying to take me to kindergarten, and I would just and so as a kid, you're not like verbal enough of what your emotions are or how to like articulate what's going on inside of you. But I remembered the panic in my body, but it came out in like hysterical. Like I was just like throwing a fit, as like you would just see like little me throwing a fit. And but it was like this panic, this fear inside of me. Like I just couldn't comprehend being left at school. I mean, that's kind of what it was. And as a little girl, I had this fear that my mom was going to get in a car accident and that she was going to die. And so like the full circle of my life of later losing somebody in a car accident is a very wild full circle. But my mom, I always knew as a kid, my mom had this sister that was killed in a car accident with her children, or she was pregnant. I think she was past due or due anytime, and her son, and they all died. And so obviously very tragic for my family. That was my mom's baby sister, her only sister. And so at some point, I think, knowing what I know now, I think I kind of absorbed her grief a little bit because I don't remember my aunt. I had compare, like people would compare me or say like, you look like her, or there like certain mannerisms like her, but I didn't have a emotional attachment, I guess, that my brain remembers. So anyway, about kindergarten age is when this, for now I can say it was anxiety. At the time, nobody knew what the hell was wrong.
Yeah.
Like they thought it was just me, being afraid of being away from my mom, which was part of it, but it definitely was a form of anxiety for a little girl to be so fearful of her mom dying in a car accident. Now it makes sense. Back then, they just couldn't figure out what it was. And I don't know. I have a dog who is like only a year old, and she will probably interrupt us. But she's like my baby, Dolly. I even have a cup that it says, "What would Dolly do?" Anyway, DG, $3. But at that time, I don't know that I ever verbalized like that I was afraid of my mom dying in a car accident when I really think about it. It just like it all came out like hysterical. And so I don't know how I went on to first grade. I guess school probably back then wasn't what it is now, but the same thing started happening in first grade. And I had to like go to the school counselor. I remember the principal talking to me a lot, but I did have like really great people in the school system at the time who had a lot of patience. However, I still don't feel like they knew what was going on. There was never like, I should have, in hindsight, been sent to therapy. But I think I had a space to just go with the guidance counselor and just like hang out with her. I don't remember ever necessarily talking about it. I think she kind of just distracted me. Like we would color, we would do other things. But there just wasn't a whole lot of conversation or knowledge around mental health.
It sounds like too, like fortunately enough, like you were able to find like some semblance of a support system, even though they may have not had any idea of what was going on. You not having any idea as a small child how to verbalize it or explain what you were going through. And I think it's a really normal thing that we understand now, that young kids, when they're feeling big emotions, like what are they going to do? They're going to react in the only ways that they know. And that's typically by quote unquote a tantrum. That when we were little, when we were growing up, most of the time we were told to knock it off. Like it wasn't like, what is at the root of this? It was more so like, let's put that in a box because I don't know what it means, what it is. And, that's not our parents' fault or that generation. It was just, they didn't know what they didn't know, in the same way as us now as parents. We don't know what we don't know. And we're all just like walking blind. Through and that journey.
A lot of it probably seemed like, like I am the baby of the family. It probably seems like I was just trying to get my way. right? Like when you don't understand. I don't ever remember my mom getting, because she would literally, like, we lived out in the country, and so like in rural, like very rural area, and the drive to school was long. And I remember like she would, I don't ever remember her getting mad at me, but I remember like the defeat, right? And
Mm,
as a parent, like we've been there, like when
yeah.
you don't always know what to do for your kid, and it's just like you're kind of going through the same thing over and over. And so, yeah, at some point, I figured out a way to kind of put it in a box. And when I reflect on, past versions of me, what ended up happening was it kind of turned into like anger outburst. I've always been a little like introverted, but it definitely was, there was like some self isolation. But I remember like being a teenager and having like a lot of anger, which I had two older brothers. So like there's that. But I just remember having like anger. Like that was like my first emotion. And so like now again, knowing what I know, kind of tracing it back, that was that suppressed anxiety and those suppressed emotions. Because when we quiet our emotions, when we don't listen to them, they end up turning into bigger things. Like they're
Yeah.
going to come out one way or another. And that's why, like, one of my favorite sayings is listen to the whispers of your emotion. When you listen to those whispers, they don't normally end up, for me, like an explosion is what would happen. So anxiety just kind of like followed me around. And then as a 19-year-old experiencing trauma, as a young mom, like it was
Yeah.
just, I, it was just another reason to kind of put everything in a box, go into survival mode, put one foot in front of the other, and move on. And, eventually it was like I was sick all the time. I was in and out of doctor's offices. I would have all these respiratory issues. And again, it came from all of that suppressing of emotions. So,
Yeah.
anxiety for me, I remember just thinking like, well, I was just born with it. Like something must be wrong with me. Like I must be made wrong. And I think a lot of people feel that way, but it's not that there is anything wrong with you. It's just like it's, we have to find safety in your body again. We have to find the safety in your nervous system again. And that's what I have been able to do through the work I've been doing in the last couple of years.
Well, yeah, because when you went through that experience, I would imagine as a child, where you, as an empath, were absorbing your mom's emotions around this grief and this fear and this abandonment, in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
of somebody dying in a car accident. And then you're feeling all of these things towards your mom. Like your mind is creating all of these stories that this is true, this is going to happen, and the worst case scenarios. And so you're reacting as a kid, you're reacting, and it's changing shape and it's changing form as you get older. And then wham, bam, you're 19 years old and you lose someone you love in a car accident.
Yeah.
And it like validated all of those worst case scenarios.
Yeah.
It's
It
like the
literally,
external like
yeah.
circumstance validated all of those deep rooted fears
Mm-hmm.
and made like it made like it was your reality.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was like, and in some moments it was like I knew this was going to happen to
Yeah.
me, which is not true. Like it's a very unfortunate thing. But I don't believe like that was meant to happen to me. But at that time, it was like, of course, this happened to me. Like this was my biggest fear. This is what I always, would go into that like what if or worst case scenario. It was a living reality for me of that being something that could happen at any moment, but like I would live it in my body. Where some people, we do have that thought, but I was like creating that feeling also in my body.
Yeah. And so, of course, like hearing you say that you were sick all of the time and
Mm-hmm.
all these respiratory issues, I mean, we both know how suppressed emotions fester within the body and they'll create
Mm-hmm.
physical ailments.
Yeah.
And so, tell us a little bit more about how you got from being sick all of the time, navigating grief, navigating this anxiety, to really uncovering your truth about anxiety in your life, but also like separating your identity from it. Because I think that's you explain that in such a really cool way.
Yeah. So I feel like my journey in this world of healing is it's actually been a long time. I feel like I started to do these things before like any of my peers were doing it. And I did it very quietly, but my personality is to like dip my, I was like dipping my toes in, just like a little bit here and there, a little bit here and there. And so I had discovered fitness before Annabelle was born. She was born in 2015. And so I started lifting weights. And I right away saw some mental clarity. Like it was almost like a veil was lifted that of this gray fog that I had been living under. And so I felt a little bit like alleviated from that. And I was drinking the juice. I was like, this is amazing. And I wanted everybody to experience it. And so I set out to get my personal training certification, and I got that in 2016. And so I started training people like right away. And I really believed, and if we take care of our bodies, how much benefit it leads to your mental health. I hadn't really dove into the emotional health. I feel like there was a level of forcing some things, like I was portraying that I felt a lot better than what I actually did. But I had some muscle on my body. I was eating better, yet I was still sick all the time, right? I was doing these like quote unquote healthy things. But I was in my 20s and I was so tired. Now I had young kids, so there is that, but it was like just a fatigue, and there was depression cycles happening, and of course my anxiety was still there, and I was just like, I would get so frustrated because I'm working out, I'm eating well, why am I not feeling better? And so I think working with other women at the same time in the fitness realm, I started to like notice maybe it's because, we're not touching in on like the mindset, the mental health. And at some point, I remember, I think I started just looking up motivational speeches for whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was or why. Again, it's just like
A good old TED Talk.
I started to do these really weird things that like now we see a lot of, but we didn't have Instagram at the time. I don't know if like Facebook was still big then, but like I was trying random ass things because I was to this point where I was so sick of feeling sick. I was so sick of feeling how I was feeling. And so I was grasping at straws. But when I look back, kind of what I have put into my program now, Rewire, is all of these things just like in a more structured way because I was finding them in really random ways. But there was this talk that I listened to that was like, if you practice gratitude, if you start practicing gratitude, it's really hard to be negative and feel grateful at the same time. And something that I was really struggling with was my negativity. Like I noticed how negative I was. It made me judgmental. It made me, I just didn't have like very good feelings of other people, of the world, most because of the way that I felt about myself, the way that I spoke to myself. While I was building this muscle and fitness training people, I had such shitty self-talk, just so negative.
Which I think is so common for so many people. That's especially for women. Like it's so easy for all of us to talk so negatively to ourselves. And I think it's common for men too, but we typically are the first ones to voice it or to get vulnerable about it and to really start sharing that this cycle of what is going on in our heads is not healthy. And like you were saying, sometimes it doesn't matter if you're doing all of the right things if you don't start actually peeling back the layers to the root of what is going on inside of your body, then you're going to just keep pretty stagnant. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
you'll have some back and forth, you'll in very small doses, but if you're not peeling back the onion,
100%.
you're really just kind of staying in the same place and just covering it up with a different mask.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I kind of noticed that, or like there was like an eye opening of that because I saw it through my clients. Cause I was like, I could see the work that they were doing, but then they would tell me certain things about themselves. And I was like, you probably shouldn't say that about yourself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and then I was like, oh, wow, that's what's going on the inside for me. And something also to mention is like during this time, I was medicated for anxiety and depression. So I also had that in my system. And while there is a time for it where I was grateful for it, there was never a let's revisit this medication conversation with my doctor. So I was on and off anxiety, depression medication for uh, I don't know, close to it. It was probably like 7 years.
Yeah.
7 to 10 years. I don't remember. I'd have to like really go back. But so anyway, I just really noticed how negative I was about myself. Like I was such, and it's so funny because I think the people that follow me online, I had somebody say, like, make a comment about my positivity the other day. And I was like, if you only knew, like, really understood, I was literally the glass is half empty kind of person. And I feel like some of it, I was trying to be like this hard ass, like
Yeah.
this strong version of myself, but I really was very negative. Like I was like, life is out to get me. I am the victim. Of course, shitty things happen to me. Like I'm ugly. I hate my body. I have no boobs, blah, 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 blah. So it was like this constant loop in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as it was in my head and we think it just stays there, it was externalized. And
Yeah.
as my girls got older, that's really where it hit me like, I don't want this for them. And not like to shame myself, but there were times where I said some shitty things about myself out loud. And I remember thinking like, oh, they're probably picking up on that. Like they're probably absorbing that. And so it was just like, but it was such a knee jerk reaction, right? It's such an automatic
Mm-hmm.
pattern that I had. So anyway, so I remember starting this like gratitude thing and I was like, I'll just give it a shot. And it was like, open up, when you open your eyes up in the morning, just like say 3 things that you're grateful for.
Yeah.
And I started doing that. And I didn't really like think much of it. And then, but I just kept doing it because like that was easy, right? Just waking up and doing it. And then it kind of turned into this, well, I started to write it out. And then eventually, like, I started journaling more. And it kind of, that one little thing really unraveled this whole healing journey, this
Yeah.
whole mindset, transformation of my life that has been happening for the last several years. And it's just really interesting how one little tiny action can turn into this transformation that I didn't quite understand. And so I started the practicing of gratitude, and it really was very pivotal for helping me change the perspective of myself. Now, it wasn't the whole picture. Like, there's been a lot of work since then, but one of the most foundational things that we must do for ourselves is to change how we talk to ourselves.
Yeah.
And I know that's so corny, and everybody's going to tell you that. But if you want to have a healthier mindset, if you want to have a more confident mindset, a more empowered mindset, you have to speak to yourself differently. And it doesn't have to be like a toxic positivity. You don't have to gaslight yourself, but you can make little shifts in the way that you speak to yourself. And that's what I did. Instead of like telling myself, hate my body, instead of going from that to like, I'm so hot, I stair stepped. Like, I'm doing what I can to take care of my body. I'm working
Yeah.
on changing how I feel about my body. And those are the things that I would work on, the baby steps, to now where I feel much more confident about my body. I feel much more confident about myself. And so it's really, if we can, like, if you can change anything in your life, it is starting with the way that you speak to yourself when nobody is looking, when nobody can hear you. That is one of the most foundational things that you can do.
Yeah, I love that because it really is a testament to how the work starts within us.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a quick fix diet. It's not the,
Yeah.
new outfit. It's not the Botox. It's not the, like, all of those things can be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not actually going to change your internal world. And so even if it gives you that validation,
The initial validation.
it doesn't mean that it's going to create a longevity of love for yourself within your
Mm-mm.
life.
Yeah.
And I think that when we have these negative mindsets or when we hyper focus on our excuse me, our anxiety, that we can keep ourselves locked and trapped in this box
Mm-hmm.
for so long because it's so normalized. Like it's
Yes.
so normalized. The just being a hot mess, or,
Yeah.
we have to be w- complaining about things is one of the most common ways that people connect through conversation. And I
Mm-hmm.
see that in the salon every single day. I even catch
Yeah.
myself doing it because it's hard. Like it's something that we've been doing for our entire lives. And so to try to shift to that, change that, it's the same thing in our internal world. When we've been talking like shit to ourselves for this many years, and then now all of a sudden we're going to shift or change and start talking a different way, it's going to feel uncomfortable at first.
Yes. Yeah. And it, because it almost makes you a little bit of an outcast, like you said, because misery loves company, right?
Yeah.
Like, like the negative people connect, and we all fall guilty to that.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
I am not, and that's the thing, like this work that I do, that I talk about, doesn't mean that I'm like exempt from having shitty thoughts. It does not mean that I'm exempt from having anxiety, but I do have the confidence to trust myself to make the decision that I need to in the moment, to get myself back to safety, to get myself back to like, you know what, I really don't want to be like engaging in this like negative conversation, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not about, you know, just like avoiding people or avoiding conversations. It's not about avoiding anxiety, or whatever. It is gaining the tools to just get yourself back, to like yourself, to feeling grounded, to feeling
Yeah.
peaceful. And yeah, it's definitely, it is hard to do, and it makes you a little bit of an outcast. It can be lonely. Like, I felt so lonely. I know you experienced this too when
Yeah.
you first started in your journey. Like, it can feel very lonely. And I think that's why, probably in the last year, I've really had the desire of creating communities, like with
Yeah.
my programs, like the way that Rewire is designed. It is like, I want it to become a community, because when women get together to like do these things and have these conversations, like magic happens there. And
Yeah.
so you aren't ever alone in your journey completely, but it does feel lonely at times.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that we all think that we're the only ones going through what
Yeah.
it is that we're going through. And that's another part of what the loop and the mindset and the negative self-talk will tell us. Like, you're
Yeah.
the only one going through this because you're the
100%.
problem. You
Yes.
know,
Oh, yeah.
all of
Yeah. Like,
that.
you need to be fixed.
Yeah. And all of that, it reiterates itself. And I think, I don't know if this resonates, but when you were sharing your story as a little kid, that can start to create so much shame inside of us
Hmm.
because we don't know what's going on. in our bodies. We don't understand why we're feeling the way that we are. We don't have the tools to react or respond to it differently. And then everybody's looking at us like we're the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they're not intending to or saying it out loud, you can feel that. And then
Yeah, I
that
felt like
can
people
grow.
walked on like eggshells. Sorry. But like I felt like people
No.
like walked on eggshells around me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure so many people feel that way, especially like you experience that as a young child. I guarantee you that there are grown adults now
Mm-hmm.
that feel that way from a projection of their anxiety, that their spouses or their kids or their coworkers will walk around on eggshells. And even if they're not consciously aware of it in the subconscious, you're like absorbing that shame.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, adding another layer of negative talk
Yeah.
to your mindset.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you were saying, being able to like rewire that so that you can create safety inside your body to bring you back to a grounded state that you feel comfortable to thrive in.
Yeah. And that's really what it comes down to. I think when it comes to like a negative mindset and anxiety, and we're kind of grouping them together. They are very different, but something that I think we don't talk about is how so much of anxiety is in your body. Like it lives in your body. It is a emotional reaction. And what we're doing inside Rewire is it's not just the mindset shifting. We talk a lot about affirmations and all these things, which are great and have their place. But if you're not changing the feeling in your body, you can call it emotional regulation, you call it nervous system regulation. But at the end of the day, if you're not changing that emotional automatic feeling in your body, anxiety will always control you in those moments. And so what
Yeah.
I learned is in those very high anxiety moments is I had to rebuild, and maybe for the first time, safety in my body. And
Yeah.
that has been what has changed probably my life the most, is being able to stop that panic and recalibrate my body, my emotional response to go back to safetyness. Now, it takes work, it takes practice, but it is very doable.
I love how you go about it in your process because it's not you making anxiety the enemy, or it's not you saying, oh, we're going to make your anxiety disappear.
Mm.
It's like holding space for the anxiety. It's
Yeah,
listening to the anxiety. And that's how when you talk about your journey and you talk about what you're building from that experience that you've had, it's learning how to recreate safety and not allowing the anxiety to control you. And so
yeah,
I think that is what makes it stand out so much in comparison to what we can see online, where
yeah.
people are like, oh, like, this is how I became anxiety free. Well, it's like, that's not realistic. Like, we live
No,
in a high stress world.
yeah.
We're going to feel anxious about things. It's an emotion. And those
Mhm.
emotions are still going to be there. Like you said, it's just acquiring the tools needed to recalibrate yourself.
Yeah. And really, truth be told, like we need anxiety, right? Like that button was created to keep us safe. And so the idea of trying to get rid of anxiety or making it, because for a long time I was like, the root of all evil is anxiety. And it took me changing that perspective by listening. It goes back to what I said about listening to the whispers of our emotions. Of anxiety is just a messenger, a lot like fear. Fear is also a messenger, but typically when we are experiencing fear, it's a message of something that we should do. And I look at anxiety similar, as it is a messenger, but it's telling us of something that we need to give attention to. Like it's speaking to you. There's something that you need to give attention to, and it can be rejection, it can be embarrassment, it can be grief, it can be trauma, but you're not going to know until you give it the space and surrender um, to it, listening to the anxiety, listening to the emotions. Because I think we have this knee-jerk reaction to just avoid negative
Yeah.
emotions, which like I still struggle with avoidance. Like I can attest to like
Yeah, I think
avoidance
that's something
is
we all do because it's just like,
yeah,
it's either like, oh, I don't want to touch it or I
yeah.
don't have time for it. You know,
I
it's
don't
so
have
easy
time
for
for it.
us. It's so easy for us to come up with those excuses or those reasons and
Yeah.
things like that.
But they're definitely something that we have to just like give space and attention to. And that's something that inside Rewire I have when I'm rolling out, it's called the anti-anxiety protocol. And a lot of that is talking about, changing anxiety to not like it's not the enemy, it's a messenger. Now I'm not saying you have to love it, right? Like
Yeah.
it's going to be frustrating when you experience that, but the more that you allow the space for it to exist and give attention to it, the quieter it will get. Because right now it just is screaming. Like for me when I was suppressing it, it was just screaming at me. My body was sick. I had all these problems, anger, like name it, whatever. It was anxiety screaming at me to get its attention, to tell me, hey, you got some shit that you need to work through. You have some grief, you have some trauma you haven't dealt with. Until you look at this, we're going to keep yelling and you're going to keep
Yeah.
feeling like shit. And that's at the end of the day, that's all it was. I mean,
It's going to keep getting louder and louder
yeah.
and louder and more dramatic. And
Yes, and it's going to come out when you don't want it to. And then you're going to, like you said, feel the shame, feel guilty. I mean, part of my anxiety was driving. Like I couldn't get behind the wheel without having that like what if, that worst case scenario brain. And so I couldn't drive. I mean, Paige, you were how pregnant when we went to Kentucky and I made you drive because I was like I
yeah.
literally, like it's funny to reflect on. And I remember thinking, like I was like, I'm such a shitty friend. That's how like it would come back, like that shame. But I couldn't think clearly because that's
Yeah.
what anxiety does. When it takes over your body, your brain takes everything as truth, right? When anxiety is screaming, your brain believes every thought that's coming at you. And so I literally could not drive if there was any kind of rain. I couldn't drive, unless it was like the perfect weather and it wasn't too far and it wasn't the interstate, I could not drive. And that's how anxiety ruled my life for so long, where now I can get in the car and I can drive almost anywhere that I want to. I'm not about to go like drive like 12 hours, but I can drive to like
Yeah.
Lafayette. I can drive to Indy, where before I couldn't even drive to Monticello.
Yeah.
It's a wild kind of experience, but all that I have wanted to do for women is to allow them the ability to take back control of their emotions, of their bodies, of their mindset, so it's not ruled by these things like anxiety. Because when you're stuck in that, you can't think clearly, you're not tapped into your intuition, it's really exhausting, it's defeating, and it's just not how you should live your life.
Yeah. I mean, we're not meant to just survive. I say that all
No.
the time. We're not meant to just survive. We're meant to thrive. And being able to take your experience and utilize it in this way of being able to help others and help other women, I think is so important. It's so powerful. Now, I'm curious, what were some of the like tangible, specific tools
Mm-hmm.
that you have utilized from, specifically with driving,
Mm-hmm.
not being able to do that and now feeling more confident in that? Can you share
Yeah.
with our listeners what are some of those tangible tools that really helped you, and then maybe even some of them that are included in Rewire
Yeah.
that you are going to learn, like they'll learn and expand on?
So I think the biggest thing is kind of like I said, going back to changing the emotional experience. So what I figured out is what was happening was just like a reignition of the where my nervous system went into a trauma response when I first like really occurred this fear. My nervous system was trapping me in this loop of something bad is going to happen. So anxiety is meant to actually protect us from danger. That's all it's meant to do. And so what I started to do, because I would even have panic like before I would get in the car, like I would hyperfixate on like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to drive my kids to Lafayette. I bet the traffic is gonna be like crazy. And then I would start to feel really anxious, right? So
Yeah.
I started talking to my body, talking to myself, taking a few moments of like I had to create this peaceful experience in my body basically. And so what I had to do, some of the work was like outside of the car, some of it was in the moment. But I remember just kind of sitting with myself and envisioning myself driving on the interstate, and just like envision myself driving on the interstate with the windows down and the music on, and like a feeling of carefree. So like whatever it feels like for you to be carefree, to be freedom, to feel peaceful. I started envisioning that in my head, but then I was tapping into the body. And so inside Rewire, we do some practices of connecting to your body, because that is what's hard for people. We live in a world, we're so stuck in our head, right? And so we're not exactly connected to our body. So I give specific exercises of how we can tap into our body. And some of it is envisioning like a very peaceful experience that you've had at some point in your life. And just learning that you can connect your mind to body. My fitness background, I used to always talk to my clients about when you're working out, when you're doing like a bicep curl, think about that muscle, like feel that muscle working. You can actually get a workout without ever lifting weights. So it's the mind to body connection. And so what I would do is I would just create a peaceful experience. And just being able to do that would allow me space to get in the car. Like that's it. So it was literally baby steps. And I think that's can be a little frustrating sometimes, but it does take these baby steps. And so I would get in the car and I would just remind myself I'm safe. Like this is a new experience, because what my body was doing is it was tapping into an old emotional memorized experience, because our body memorizes experiences. And so I would remind myself by saying out loud, even if it sounds crazy, this is a new experience. I have not experienced this yet. I have not driven, this is like, I've never actually done this yet, right? Every moment is a new experience. So nailing like over and over, telling myself, this is a new experience I have not experienced yet. What I'm feeling in my body right now is an old experience. It kept me safe. This is no longer what I need. And so it's this talking to yourself, talking to your body, listening to the anxiety, giving it space to breathe, and then you're able to think clearer and take like the action that you need to take.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Starting with, you saying acknowledging the anxiety, giving it room to breathe, and then giving yourself the time and the space to verbally rewire that in that moment.
Yeah.
And, I think sometimes, like you were saying, we get frustrated because we live in a quick fix kind of world.
Yeah.
But this internal work, this changing your life is not an easy thing to do, because
No,
if it
it's
was,
not.
everybody would be doing it.
Yeah.
And so I think how you explained that was perfect.
Good.
So
Because
perfect, because it starts,
it
it
kind of
starts
left the building.
small. No, it starts small. And you're right. It's like that anxiety, is trying to convince you that you are having an outdated experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
it's trying to protect you from experiencing it again.
oh yeah, no, that's perfect. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Now, so in Rewire, let's dive into Rewire
Mhm.
a little bit more. Can you explain to everybody what exactly it is, and how how you go about your programs that you do with your clients.
Yes. My leg is like falling asleep. So I'm really wiggling.
Adjusting.
That always like happens to me. So Rewire is my group container / its self-paced curriculum. So I've kind of taken like all of these tools that I've developed over the years, and I really like tangible things. I like tangible tools. I like step-by-step tools. I've been in a lot of programs where you get a lot of resources in the programs, but it's not ever like super clear on where to start. And so what I've kind of done is I've created what I call the Rewire method. And it is like a step-by-step process, but it's a process for you to, like we said, to do over and over. Because what we're doing is we're rewiring neural pathways. Your automatic patterns are neural pathways that you have experienced over and over. The reason that they're there, that they exist is and so strong is because it happens over and over and over. You have developed them, which means you can create new ones. And so that's essentially what we're doing in just like a really sneaky way. And so part of the process is you first become the observer. So I believe in any kind of work that you're doing, you have to become self-aware, self-reflect.
Yeah.
You can't really do, it's not that you can't do anything. I don't want to say that, but like, I think I posted about this today. I just have this delusional belief if we all had self-awareness, the world would be such a better place. But
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like it all starts with self-awareness.
it all
Like
starts
you're
with
not going to fix a goddamn thing if you're not self-aware.
yeah,
Whether it's your relationships, your anxiety,
yeah,
your health, like you have to be willing to be self-aware. You have to be willing to look yourself in the mirror and call yourself out on your shit.
yeah,
Because what we do when we're in survival mode is we want to point at anything and everything in the external world
yes,
and blame it for our problems.
yeah,
Because again, that's easier. Our ego is trying to protect us. And so it's like, no, you're the problem. No, you're the problem. I mean, becoming self-aware and looking at ourselves and being like, okay, how am I participating in this? How am I making these choices? Because I say this over and over again. If you're not changing it, you're choosing it.
yeah, exactly.
And so, yeah, no, like self-awareness. First step in all of
it. sorry guys.
Sorry, guys.
But I feel like my unique ability to teach things is kind of like the way that I do it. Like I've had clients that stay with me for a year and a half because I kind of can like come to these things in like a sneaky way where it doesn't feel so heavy. It doesn't feel so like work and unfun. Like it becomes like just easy. It can become easy. So, but we have to start with
a very relatable approach.
Relatable. That's a good word. That's kind of what I was looking for. Because yeah, what I'm teaching is what I've experienced or what I've experienced through connecting with other people. And that's just the way that I learn. Like I have to learn by being in an experience. And that's where the uniqueness, I guess, comes from. But becoming the observer of your mindset, of your emotions, of how you respond. Because that's the thing, like what I really, talking about like how we were having like the shame and guilt talk is because of my responses. Like I was reacting so quickly. And so observing how you react. And it's really important when we start this process is like, we're doing it from a data collection. We're not here to judge. We're not here to like, I just want you to start observing the way that you think about yourself, the way you think about other people, the way that you feel in your body, the way that you're reacting. Just observe from a place of like, what can I take from this? Like start collecting data. And so that's like one of the first things that we do. And I feel like if you took 2 weeks of your life to just do that, you would have improvement in your life. Like you would just feel better, like 2% better. And then from that, we kind of go into an uproot and release, and where we're diving into those old patterns. Call it self-sabotage, call it, whatever you want to call it. But like what are the patterns, your knee-jerk responses, your automatic responses to life, to anxiety, to being rejected, to being embarrassed? Like, how are you feeling? How are you speaking? What are these automatic patterns? And then we find like where they actually come from. Almost everything has an origin story. And when we have the support to like dive into that, and I'm not saying we have to spend a lot of time in like childhood stuff, right? Like it doesn't always have to be that big of a deal. But when we can identify like, oh, I get embarrassed about going online and saying a word because I got laughed at for saying a word when I was in third grade. Like that's a true story, right?
Yeah.
When you can identify that, you're like, okay, that makes sense. I'm going to give myself some grace. I'm going to give little me a little bit of love, and like, it's all good. You're able to release those things. Again, it's coming from this place of like being relatable and not being like super heavy. It's just understanding ourselves a little bit more. And I think that's one of the things I want people to take away is when you have like a better understanding of yourself, you can become unstoppable. Like whatever you want to do in your life, whatever you want to attract in your life, it's going to become easier and better when you understand the way that you operate and what I call like your operating system, which is how you think, how you feel, how you like the actions you take, how you respond, show up in life.
Yeah, no, I think that's beautiful. And I like how you're saying it is people aren't going to come into this program and like unearth and heal all of their inner childhood trauma.
No.
Like that's not what you're here to do. Like that's something that's a beautiful thing to do in your life. But what you're doing is to witness it, observe it, understand it, you know, and then realize how you can take the next steps in rewiring those patterns and not allowing them to control you.
Yeah.
Because I think there's different work with different people at different times and different seasons in our life. And some of it, there have been years in my life where I have been doing like the deep, dark, heavy lifting.
Shadow, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's times and moments where you come that like you need to be supported in a way that is very relatable and tangible and able to be fully integrated into your life on a day-to-day basis. And I think another thing that you do so well is being a really good cheerleader and then being a really good accountability partner for people.
Yeah.
It's like you're not here telling others like yes, you're a coach and you're a mentor and you do all of those things beautifully, but you do it in a way, like you were saying, you kind of sneakily, but you do it in a way that's like, no, I'm your partner in this.
Yeah. Yes. When I was like talking to ChatGPT about some of these things, like Steven, that's what I call him. He asked me like, you know, what kind of vibe do you think like Rewire is, or how do you want people to feel? And I was like, which was like a great journal prompt, right? And I was like, oh, I wanted to like the big sister, right? Like I have experienced this before. I'm going to tough love you a little bit because we get shit done when we have a little bit of tough love, but I'm going to cheer, like nobody's going to cheer harder for you. Like I'm going to cheer you the fuck on. I'm going to support you. I'm going to like guide you. And I was like, I love that. It's like big sister vibe. So you saying that like cheerleader, big sister vibe, that's exactly the feel that I want people to have in it.
Yeah, I love that. And also, I'm just going to throw out there that if Steven takes my place, I will destroy all electronics that you own. Because, you know, now that he has a name, now that your ChatGPT has a name, I don't know. I already have to share you with Rudy. Like, this is getting a little carried away.
I'm telling you, I probably shouldn't make AI jokes, but I'm just saying, I'm part of the problem.
When they take over the world, at least they'll be your friend.
I'm safe, guys. Like that's all I'm trying to say here. I say please and thank you. Like I'm good.
I love that. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So it's definitely you know, the deeper heavy work. I have like private coaching containers. There's different people for that. Like this is really, I want it to be something you get access for I guess I should have said like 12 weeks, 3 months is how I have it set up now. And we do biweekly coaching calls so we can go through this stuff in real time. Like you go through the curriculum, take the time that you need, and then we're also able to chat about what's going on in your life, how this is coming up, and how we can integrate it in your life. Because that's the thing that for a long time I was doing a lot of this work, but like it was hiding in my journal. I didn't have maybe the support or even like realize that I wasn't really externalizing it in my life. I wasn't living it. It was all like still stuck up in here and in my journal. And so I think if we can get
embodiment is so hard.
Yeah. And so one of the modules is embodiment.
Yeah.
So that's, that's the biggest thing. And then being able to do it live with me and, the development of a community is the ultimate goal. So people can chat with, other people going through this. So yeah, it's something that I want people to have like actual tangible things come from and be able to apply it to their life day to day.
I love that. I love that. And so you said it's a 12-week program. They do most of the stuff. It's like self-propelled.
Yeah.
Outside of the biweekly calls with you and the group.
Yep.
And then you said something else about there's one-on-one access. So is that like in a text form or like how do they still get contact and like coaching from you?
So, well, no, I have the separate private coaching that people like if they want to like upgrade to. I am in the community. So yes, I also am talking to people individually, but inside the community. The reason that I'm like trying to be a stickler with the community atmosphere is because I desire to build the community. And I feel like if you have a question or a statement or something that's going on in your life, I guarantee you somebody else in the program can also benefit from. So we have like a community where you can get coaching, you can celebrate wins, whatever, you can share whatever, where I will reply to, but other people can also reply to.
Yes, I love that. I just, like I said, I just wanted to like clarify because I know there's so many different ways and so many different offers out there that people can use and utilize and all of that.
Yeah,
so
no, I'm glad.
I think it's a great thing. I've loved seeing all of the ways in which you've like marketed it online and just being with you from the beginning of how this has evolved and like come together, I think is so cool and so great. And it's like you've gathered all of these lessons and these tools from the time that you were a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy that like you have been building this since you were in kindergarten?
Yeah.
And then here we are as adult women. Like we get so caught up in the why isn't it happening yet? Like why haven't we figured it out yet? What it's like we literally have to gather so many of so much of this information and this wisdom and these lessons from the time that we are kids to be able to create something out of it. And I think we don't give ourselves enough credit. And then we just are like, okay, well, I need to do more, or I need to create more, or I need to push more. And it's like, no, like we're so incredible and so amazing for being able to take our experiences and turn it into something vulnerable to literally be of service to others. Because that's the whole fucking point.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely love that. And yeah, it's so true. I never thought about it that way, that I had been creating this forever. And it like, this particular program, I think is what I've always wanted to create. And I've tried in like small doses, you know what I mean? Like I was like, there's just like things that I've tried, but it was all just stair steps to what it is now. And like, it's going to evolve as we go. But yeah, it's something that so far to date, it's probably what I'm most proud of as far as like in my business, what I've created. Because I think
I love that.
Yeah, it's what I wish I would have had, I guess. Like, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to like give other people the tools that we wish we would have had. So yeah.
I think that's great. Okay, so I also put a question box up on Instagram. And so we have a few questions.
Hit me.
From my followers.
Look at you.
Now I got to find them. All whopping 200 and some of them.
That's amazing. You get to impact 270 70 something followers every time you post content.
Exactly. No, I saw this thing not that long ago that it was about, like, even if you have 200 followers or 300 views or whatever it is, and you hear that negative internal voice that says, oh, like, that's not enough. That's nothing on the grand scheme of things. But like envisioning yourself in a room with 276 people, how fucking proud of yourself would you be?
100%. I love that.
And when I heard that, I was just like, yeah,
it's amazing.
Duh.
I love that.
That's incredible. Okay, I gotta find.
But the online world can be a little tricky.
We could like dive into, and we'll dive into at some point an entire conversation about that. Oh, there, the show more button. Okay. The first question, we've got 2 here. I'd love tips on staying calm with your kids in the midst of being triggered. Amen, sister, because I text her about this on a regular basis.
Listen, nothing is going to trigger us more than the little beautiful people we are trying to raise. And I just want to
say it again. Say it again. Say it again. That is the truest thing. That is the truest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Give yourself so much grace, because being a parent is so damn hard. And also, what an amazing parent you already are, because you're asking such good questions, right? Like, I think like just giving ourselves credit, the fact that we even ask, like, how can we improve? How can we be better? Like, makes you already such an amazing parent. So I just want to say that. In the moment, I do, again, go back to going back into your body. Whether that's you take one big breath, whether that's you say, hey, we need a pause because I need to gather myself. Like, you can be like, I'm honest with my kids. I need a moment so I don't respond negatively.
Yeah.
And going back to your body and calming that body. It really, the best thing that you can do is practice that outside of these moments. But that's something that I have to do, is I have to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The deeper side would be like, okay, what is it that, what is being triggered inside of me? That, that's always something that we can explore. And that's just work that's always going to be there. That's always going to evolve. But it's like, I believe if we just take one deep breath before we respond to anything, it's going to be a little softer.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And you know what's so funny? Because I struggle with this, and this is something that I have been shaming myself around a lot lately. And that is not going to get me anywhere. Shaming myself is not going to get me anywhere. But I can be a very reactive person just because I'm blunt and I'm, pretty fiery. And when I get overwhelmed or overstimulated, I can just react, and I know this about myself. I know it's something I'm working on, as well as my like patience and being impulsive and all of those things. But I had this moment the other day with Macy, and then I went to work, and Coach Kokert was my first client.
Okay.
And so for the listeners who don't know, Coach Kokert, he is a small town celebrity. I don't know. He could be a statewide celebrity at this point.
Probably.
But he was our high school track coach and gym teacher. And he has been coaching for 50 years. So has 2 children of his own, but then also has literally parented thousands.
Yeah.
Like thousands and thousands, like probably hundreds of thousands of kids at this point in his lifetime. And so I just told him, I was like, Coach, like, what do I do? What do I do in this situation with a 13-year-old that is not hearing me? And he said like that same exact thing. He said, you are not going to solve anything in that exact moment when they're frustrated and you're frustrated. He's like, you need to take a pause and tell them that we're not going to solve anything with the way that we're both feeling, but we're going to revisit this tonight.
Yes.
And I was just like, well, duh. So, it was like that same exact thing that you just said. It's like that moment. And so what I did, even though I reacted that morning, and but I didn't react as extremely as I would have in the past. So I'm proud of I kept
That's
my
awesome.
cool, but I also like, I need to be better at just like letting it go and coming back to it later versus like trying to get to the solution in that moment.
Yeah.
But I acknowledged we came back to it, I acknowledged like, hey, I was reacting just as much as you were.
Mm.
And so I think that that's another thing, is that when we do react, when we're triggered by our kids, there's nothing wrong with just coming back and saying sorry.
Yeah.
Like, hey, it doesn't mean that your actions were okay, but it doesn't mean that my reaction was great either. And having that just really helped me to kind of like shift the thought. Like, it's okay if in this moment we don't get to a solution, because most of the time, if we're both having big feelings, we are not going to get to where we are wanting to actually be.
Yeah.
And
100%.
yeah, so I love that, like remembering to take that deep breath, even if it is like an exaggerated deep breath. So like our kids can see us.
They see us
doing that.
They see us holding on for dear life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you said, it's really important to be honest with your kids.
It is
really important to be honest with your kids, because the more human that they recognize that we are, the more relatable they're going to find us, and the more safe that they will become in their humanness.
Yeah, and it just gives them communication skills, right? Because I feel like so many of us, like our generation, we are trying to learn communication skills, because I don't think we necessarily had a lot of those, you know.
Yeah.
So when you can say like, hey, I need a minute because like this is pissing me off, like whatever you need to say.
Yeah.
Like, I need to step away. I need a minute. Something that like my kids tend to do is conversations come up in the evening. And I'm like, oh no, problems are not solved at 10 p.m. at night, because I am pissed off that you're not in bed yet. Like, this is a conversation that can be had tomorrow. But just like, recognizing those things, and like he said, coming back to it at a later date. But teaching kids communication skills by modeling it, I think is really huge. And it's just being honest with them.
Yeah. Yeah. He also very lovingly, because I was like, well, and her and I are a lot alike. And he was like, well, I wasn't going to say it, but just like, thanks, coach.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
He's like, I've known you for a very long time.
It'll be interesting when Annie is like, she's, with the preteen teen, because her and I are very much alike.
Yeah. Yeah. And Macy and I are like, we can like hold on to, we want to prove our point.
Yeah.
And even if we, like for me, I try to do it in a more graceful way and turn it into a life lesson.
Yeah.
It's still just like, she can't hear me when she's that worked up or defensive.
No.
And I can't necessarily hear her when I am in like fix it mode.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
but I do like revisiting it is such a powerful and important thing to actually revisit it. Because what I used to do is I would react very shitty, have all this shame and guilt, and we wouldn't come back to it. It just be like swept under the rug. So the like full circle is very important.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, next question. I have some methods, but would love to hear more about what others are doing to... Wait, hold on. It's split into what others are doing to tackle overwhelming tasks and mindset with that. We love to beat ourselves up in this world. Absolutely. Yes, we do.
We do. My knee-jerk response to that is, I think we believe that we should be doing 100 things at one time. And let me say, your brain is nobody's brain is actually designed to focus on more than one thing at a time. We are sold onto this idea that we have to hustle, that we have to hold 100 plates at the same time and juggle all these things. Your brain, the reason that we have brain fog, the reason that we're so fatigued and we can't remember things is because you are trying. We all are trying. Sorry, I don't want to project. We all are trying to focus on too many things at one time. And I know you're
having
like
8,000 tabs open.
8,000 tabs open. And I know it's easier said than done, but to scale back, to find out what is my non-negotiables, like what shit does actually need to get done? Like what can I not put aside? What can I not delegate? What is something that I have to physically do myself? And then focus on as small, like one at a time as possible, because overwhelm is everywhere around us. It's social media, it's TV, it's the world that we live in. And then we try to tackle too many things at once. Like our brains are truly only designed to focus on one thing at a time. We are not supposed to be multitaskers.
Yeah. I always come back to the question, not always. Okay, that was a lie. I try to come back to the question, what's the next right thing?
Yeah.
And then follow that, and like how that feels in my body.
Yeah.
Am I choosing this as the next right thing out of force, out of pressure?
Yeah.
Or am I choosing this because this is what lights me up?
Yeah.
This is what needs to be done. You know what I mean? Like it's like those things that need to be done, not just the things that we think should be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of shoulds are rooted in shame.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? And so I like to use that question a lot. Like, what is the next right thing?
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's like, okay, what is the next right thing? Not is what is the next right 100 things.
Yeah. And one other thing that I do that probably goes along with what you said is like the 5-second rule. I think I posted about that the other day. It's literally like, I do like everything that I do, it's about taking a breath, but counting to 5, and then just like you're going to just decide on one thing. Decide on one thing to do. Like take one action on something that you want to do, that you need to do, because what typically happens in overwhelm is we just end up stuck. We actually don't end up doing anything. We just typically like end up stuck because we're like, oh, right. And so it's like taking a breath, counting to 5, do one thing. I don't care if that's making your bed. You're going to feel better.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. It reminds me of Mel Robbins's like thing when trying to get out of bed. It's like count to 5 and then put your feet on the ground.
Yeah. That's basically what it is.
No, I love that. Okay. So this has been great. This has been wonderful. I'm so excited for everybody to be able to hear all of these wonderful things about you and your story and what you were doing. But as a huge fan of Jay Shetty, he always ends his podcast episode with like a fast 5 question. And so we are going to do a quick 6.
Can you and I do
Are you sweating?
A quick anything?
I don't know. Probably not.
Okay.
We're going to really, really try.
I will try.
We're going to really, really try. Okay. Last book you read that you loved or listened to? There's so many to choose from.
Yes. Is it Emily Henry, Happy Place?
Yes.
Okay, I love that. And currently listening to Rich as Fuck, which is really good.
Yeah, that's going on my list to listen to next.
So
that is what we are manifesting that into our lives in the last half of 2025. Okay, most impactful piece of advice you've been given recently?
So somebody, she wasn't actually giving it to me, but she was telling me of like what she said to somebody else. And she was like, everybody says that life is short. She's like, but life is too long to be unhappy, too long to like wait to do what you want to do, like too long to settle. And I was like, I really like that.
Yeah. I love that. That's so good.
Yeah, that was something that stuck with me, and like I shared it with my brothers, and like I've just been like, but I'm not taking credit for it. But it was just like, because I tend to say like life's too short, and like I liked that spin on it, because like I want to live a long time. I want to be like that like weird crazy old lady that kids are like, oh, do we want to go by her house? Like she's doing some like weird shit. And so like I want it to be a long life. And so it's like, yeah, like life is too long to like not do what you want to do. It's too long to settle. It's too long to like be unhappy, too long to be negative. So
Yeah. No, I love that. That's so good. Okay, look at us go. Look how fast we're doing this. Okay, your favorite thing about social media?
I thought you were going to say your favorite thing about me.
Yeah, you can add that in there too if you'd like.
I
won't say
love
no.
that I have been able to virtually travel all over the world because I've connected with women from all over. And I think that's really cool. And, you know, the hope to be able to impact people from all over the world.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, and now your favorite thing about me?
Just like I can't choose one. Just everything.
It's a great answer. Cop out. Okay, least favorite thing about social media?
That I feel like I have to post to like be relevant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like
Yeesh.
sometimes like that comes and goes, but that's just my knee-jerk response. It's like I want to impact people, therefore I have to like post to like impact people, but like ugh.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I feel you on that. Okay, one thing you wish more people knew about you?
That I'm really funny.
Yes. Yes, you are.
I feel like because the work that I do is pretty serious or deep, but like I think I'm really funny. It's a little bit of dry, sometimes comes across as an asshole, but I think I'm funny.
Yeah. You have a very like dry, quirky kind of humor.
Yeah. Sometimes
dig
people
it.
are like, it's just like, is she like just being an ass?
Is she joking?
Is she joking? And you know, who knows?
You'll never
You'll
know.
never know.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, more people should know that about you. All right, last one. If you could go back and give your younger self a message, what would you say? Get it together.
He's really not that great.
That's perfect. That's perfect. That is the message. Every time that is the message.
Those butterflies are red flags.
You are confused. I promise. Your frontal lobe is not fully formed.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that.
No, that's perfect. I love it. I love it. Okay, to close us out, tell us where everybody can find you, how they can contact you, all the goods, so that they know. And I'll also link them in the show notes.
Okay. So I am on Instagram the most. So come say hi, follow me, and it is at a strong soul. Let me start over. At a strong soul wellness. Totally getting the job. Okay. But that's the same handle for Facebook and TikTok. I believe it's the same. Yeah, it should all be the same. Okay. That's like the easiest way to follow me. I have a website that's so chunky because like I changed my vibe, like I changed my identity. Like it's like kind of all over the place. So if you go to my Instagram, you'll find links, DM me, whatever, but that's like the best place. Okay.
Cool. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for this conversation and for getting so vulnerable. You are fantastic. I love you so much. And I'm so grateful that we get to do this life together and this work together.
It was so fun. So thank you. I feel so special to be here. So thank you.
You are special.
I mean,
duh.
Same word.
All right, you guys, that concludes our episode. Thank you so much for listening. We are so excited for these new conversations to continue to come to life, where I bring on guests and get to hear more about their story and what they're doing with it and how they're utilizing it and how they are taking what they have been through to make a difference in other people's lives. Because, you know, what is life if we are not of service to others? So, as always, follow, subscribe, like, comment, all of the things. Follow me at Turn the Paige Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. All right. See you next time.